She thought losing a boyfriend was heartbreak. But losing her best friend? That was betrayal with a name and a perfect smile. For years, Ava and Lila were inseparable, until Ava begins to see a painful pattern. Every boy she falls for, Lila ends up chasing. When the betrayal cuts too deep, Ava is forced to choose between loyalty and self-respect. But walking away from someone who once felt like home is harder than it seems. And healing means learning to stand on your own, even when the past keeps trying to pull you back in. Hello family, welcome to Storytime with Imzi. Please subscribe and like, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. It was one of those early September afternoons when the sun still clung to summer, but the breeze hinted at fall. Ava sat cross-legged on the bleachers, twirling a strand of hair around her finger, her eyes locked on the soccer field where Ryan was practicing corner kicks. Her heart beat a little faster every time he glanced her way. "God, you've got it bad," Lila said, plopping down beside her with a dramatic sigh, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Her long legs dangled off the edge, swinging lazily. Ava smiled. "He's cute, right?" Lila tilted her head, watching Ryan jog across the field. "He's not bad," she said with a sly grin. "But don't let him hear you call him cute. Boys hate that." Ava rolled her eyes. "You say that about every guy I like." "That's because you have a type," Lila said, nudging her. "Wholesome, sporty, and just oblivious enough to be trainable." They laughed together, their voices blending with the sound of cleats on grass and whistles in the distance. It had always been like this between them, easy, electric, like they had their own language. Since third grade, they'd been inseparable. People often mistook them for sisters, even though Ava's curls and olive skin contrasted Lila's sleek blonde hair and porcelain glow. After practice, Ryan jogged over, sweat gleaming on his neck, his grin crooked and boyish. "Hey, Ava," he said, brushing a hand through his hair. "Hey," she replied, suddenly shy. She stood, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. Lila flashed him a dazzling smile. "Nice footwork out there, Ryan." Those turns were smooth. He blinked at her, a little surprised, then laughed. "Thanks, I've been working on that." Ava caught the way his eyes lingered on Lila for just a second too long. Something sharp and unfamiliar stirred in her stomach. Later, as they walked home, Lila linked arms with her like nothing had changed. "He's sweet," she said breezily. "I see why you like him." Ava hesitated. "You're not into him, are you?" Lila laughed, tossing her hair. "Please. I would never go after your guy. You know that." Ava smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She wanted to believe her. Of course she did. But for the first time in their long friendship, Ava noticed the shadow that flickered just behind Lila's perfect smile. Ava stared at her phone screen, thumb hovering over Ryan's name. He hadn't texted all day. Yesterday, he barely said goodbye after school, mumbling something about being swamped with practice. And yet, 20 minutes later, Lila had posted a photo on her story. Just 2 iced coffees on a cafe table. No faces, no tags. But Ava knew Lila's handwriting on the cup sleeve, and the initials on the second one weren't hers. Ryan liked his iced coffee with oat milk and caramel drizzle. It was a stupid detail to remember. But she did. She didn't ask. Not yet. She told herself not to spiral. That night, Ava lay awake, the ceiling fan humming above her, stirring warm air and quiet doubts. Her mind wandered, back to freshman year. Back to Jonah. Jonah had been her first almost boyfriend. They never made it official, but they spent weeks walking home together, sharing playlists, texting late into the night. He'd said she made him feel calm. He liked that she didn't play games. And then suddenly he was gone. Cold. Distant. 2 weeks later, she saw him and Lila sitting on a bench outside the theater building. Lila was laughing at something he said, her hand grazing his knee, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Ava had asked her once. "Jonah." Lila had raised an eyebrow. "We're just friends. He told me he was never really into you." Back then, Ava hadn't pushed. She swallowed the hurt and moved on. That's what friends do, right? Now, walking past the lockers the next morning, Ava saw them, Ryan and Lila, standing too close, talking in low voices. Lila's head tilted just the way it always did when she was performing softness. Her fingertips brushed his sleeve in that way that looked like an accident and never was. Ryan spotted Ava and stepped back. "Hey," he said too quickly. Lila was telling me about that dumb math test." Lila turned, all smiles. "Can you believe they made it multiple choice and short answer? Like pick a struggle." Ava nodded slowly, heart twisting. "Yeah, brutal." They walked to class together, but something was different now. The rhythm was off. Lila was animated, chatting with Ryan like nothing was weird. But Ava wasn't really listening. She was thinking about Jonah. She was thinking about the coffee cups. And she was thinking about how, somehow, Lila always managed to stand in the middle, between Ava and whoever she liked. Ava looked at her friend as they stepped into the classroom. Beautiful. Effortless. Smiling. And for the first time, Ava realized she didn't trust her. It took Ava 3 tries to hit send. "Can we talk?" She stared at the text for a full minute after it was delivered. The read receipt popped up almost instantly. Typical Lila. The reply came seconds later. "Sure. After school. Come by my place." Lila's room was warm and lit with fairy lights, like always. Posters of retro bands she didn't listen to anymore were still taped crookedly on her walls. Ava sat on the edge of the bed, fingers clenched in her lap. Lila was stretched out across her pillows, scrolling through her phone like this was just another lazy Tuesday. Ava took a breath. "Are you seeing Ryan behind my back?" The words hung in the air like smoke. Heavy. Smothering. Lila looked up, blinking like Ava had just asked if the sky was green. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Ava's voice was steady, but her hands were ice cold. "You're hanging out with him. Texting him. I know about the coffee. I know you were at his place Saturday." Lila laughed, but it was brittle, glass thin. "God, Ava. Is this what we're doing now? Policing who I talk to?" "I'm not policing." Ava bit her tongue. "You've done this before." Lila sat up, arms crossed. "With Jonah? Seriously? That was like 2 years ago. You said he was never really into me." "Because he wasn't," Lila snapped. "I was just being honest. You wanted the truth, and I gave it to you." "No. You wanted him. And now you want Ryan." For a moment, Lila didn't say anything. Her lips parted slightly, as if she was about to deny it. But then she tilted her head, her expression softening into something Ava couldn't name. Pity, maybe. Or victory. "You're just not very good at keeping their attention, Ava." "That's not my fault." Ava flinched like she'd been slapped. Her throat burned. "Ryan and I are done," she said quietly. "You can have him." Lila raised an eyebrow. "I'm not sure I want him anymore." That was worse somehow. Ava stood, grabbing her bag with trembling fingers. "Thanks for being honest," she said, her voice sharper than she intended. She walked out without another word. That night, she cried in the bathtub with the water running, not for Ryan, but for the friendship that had finally shattered, silently, cruelly, and completely. Lila didn't call. She didn't text. Not the next day. Not the day after. Not even when Ava changed her relationship status to single. And everyone else noticed. At school, the hallways buzzed with the usual noise. Lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking, people whispering behind notebooks. But to Ava, it all felt muffled, like sound underwater. Lila had always walked beside her, always sat next to her in class, always filled the silence with snark and sugar. Without her, everything echoed. They passed each other in the hallway 3 times that week. The first time, Ava looked away. The second, Lila did. The third, their eyes met for half a second, flat, unreadable. And then nothing. By Friday, Lila was posting photos of her and Ryan on her story. One was at his soccer game, her arms wrapped around his neck. Another was a close-up of their hands, fingers laced. "Found the real one, dizzy yellow art." The caption burned. Ava didn't cry this time. She felt hollow but calm, like someone who had finally stopped hoping a wound would close and had just let the scar form instead. Instead of eating lunch in the cafeteria, she sat outside under the tree near the art wing. Alone, until someone sat next to her. It was Jamie. Quiet Jamie with paint-stained fingers and a pencil always tucked behind his ear. He didn't say anything at first, just opened his sketchbook and started drawing. The sound of graphite on paper was oddly soothing. "I like this tree," he said eventually. It doesn't pretend to be anything. Ava blinked, then laughed softly. You talk to trees? Jamie shrugged. Only the honest ones. It wasn't much of a conversation, but it was enough. Enough to make the silence feel less sharp. Over the next few weeks, they started sitting together more often, after school, at lunch, in the library. Ava never had to explain anything. Jamie didn't ask. He just let her exist without expectation. It was strange, after all the drama and performance of her friendship with Lila, to be around someone who asked for nothing and gave so much. Ava started to laugh again. Little laughs at first, then real ones. She saw Lila now and then, walking with Ryan, laughing loudly in the center of a group. But the sight no longer cut like it used to. It just was. There was something peaceful in that. And maybe, just maybe, something beautiful waiting ahead. It was raining the day Jamie offered her his hoodie. They had both forgotten umbrellas, of course, and were stuck beneath the awning outside the art building, watching water pour from the roof in thick silver sheets. Ava's backpack was soaked, her hair curling at the edges, and her hands were cold. You look like a half-drowned kitten, Jamie said, smirking. Ava stuck her tongue out at him. You're one to talk. Your sketchbook's melting. He looked down at the mess of ink and water running across the page. Art is pain, he said solemnly, then peeled off his hoodie and tossed it over her shoulders. Here, for the kitten. It smelled like lavender detergent and pencil shavings. Ava pulled it tighter, warmth blooming across her chest, unfamiliar but welcome. They stood there in silence for a moment, listening to the rain. Why are you nice to me? She asked suddenly. She didn't mean to say it. It just slipped out. Her voice was quiet, almost lost in the downpour. Jamie blinked. What do you mean? I mean, she hugged the hoodie. You barely knew me. I was a mess. And you just sat with me. You didn't ask anything. You didn't expect anything. Jamie looked at her, really looked. Not like someone who wanted to fix her or dissect her pain, but like someone who simply wanted to see. I liked the way you looked at people when you thought no one noticed, he said. Like you were still trying to figure out if the world was worth trusting. I guess I wanted you to know it could be. Ava's heart thudded hard. She didn't reply, but she didn't need to. He understood silence better than anyone. That night, she wore his hoodie to bed. She hadn't realized how tightly she'd been holding her grief until she felt it start to loosen, breath by breath. Over the next few weeks, their friendship deepened like watercolor soaking into paper. Slow, natural, irreversible. Jamie taught her how to sketch eyes with shadows, how to mix gray-blue from just the right shades. She taught him how to make playlists, the kind that made sense only if you listened in order. They didn't talk about Ryan or Lila. Instead, they built something new, something real. When Jamie reached for her hand one afternoon as they sat in the grass behind the track field, he didn't look at her, just rested his fingers on hers gently, as if asking, not taking. She laced their fingers together. For the first time in what felt like forever, Ava didn't look over her shoulder. She just looked forward. The message came on a Thursday night. Ava was lying on her bed, earbuds in, Jamie's playlist humming through one side while she doodled in the corner of her notebook. Lila, hey, can we talk? Ava stared at the screen. It had been over a month. Since the hoodie. Since the hand-holding. Since she'd let go of the version of her that needed Lila's validation like oxygen. Now here she was, reappearing like a ghost that didn't know it had died. Ava didn't answer. But Lila didn't stop. The next day, Jamie met her at the curb after school, holding her favorite matcha from the cafe downtown. So, he said casually, Lila messaged me. Ava paused mid-sip. What? Instagram. She asked if I wanted to come to this gallery opening next weekend. He scratched the back of his neck. Said she thought I'd vibe with the artists. Ava blinked. She invited you out? Jamie nodded slowly. I told her I was seeing someone. And she just sent a thumbs up, with a winking face. Ava laughed, but it was short and sharp. Of course she did. Jamie studied her. Do you think she's trying to mess with us? I don't think, Ava said. I know. That weekend, Lila showed up at Jamie's art show. Alone, in a fitted black dress, and heels she didn't normally wear unless she wanted to make a point. She wandered through the gallery like she owned it, pausing in front of Jamie's piece. A moody charcoal sketch titled Quiet is a Language. Ava stood beside Jamie, fingers entwined with his as Lila approached. "This one's yours, right?" Lila asked, smiling. "It's beautiful. Dark but soft." "Thanks," Jamie said flatly. He didn't let go of Ava's hand. Lila's eyes flicked down. "Cute," she said, her voice like silk dipped in vinegar. "You two are adorable." Ava tilted her head. "What do you want, Lila?" Lila's smile didn't budge. "Just wanted to be supportive. Put the past behind us." "The past?" Ava echoed. "That thing you keep dragging into every room you walk into?" Lila's eyes narrowed, but only for a second. "It's not my fault boys like me." "No," Ava said. "It's your fault you go after them because I had them first." For a breath, the gallery noise fell away. Just the three of them, surrounded by art and quiet fury. Jamie didn't speak. He didn't need to. Lila's facade cracked, just a sliver. "You think you've figured everything out, don't you?" Ava shrugged. "No, but I figured you out." She turned, pulling Jamie gently with her, leaving Lila standing there in a room full of mirrors. For the first time in their entire friendship, Ava didn't feel like the one who had lost something. She felt like the one who finally walked away. It started with whispers. By Monday morning, Lila had spun her version of the gallery scene into a spectacle. Ava heard her name float through the hallways, tucked between giggles and side eyes. "She's obsessed with Lila. She's just bitter Jamie likes her more. Jealousy is a bad look." Ava said nothing, at first. She wasn't new to this game. She knew how Lila worked. Charm them, then poison the well. Make herself look like the victim, and you like the problem. But this time, she wasn't alone. By Tuesday, Jamie had posted his new piece on social media. A sketch of a girl standing on a cliff edge, wind blowing her hair upward like flame, fists clenched, mouth open in a scream you could feel through the page. He didn't caption it. He didn't have to. That afternoon, Ava walked into English class and found Lila already seated in the front row, her phone glowing in her hand. Ava took a seat 2 rows back. The room buzzed with low conversation. The teacher hadn't arrived yet. Lila turned. "Saw Jamie's post," she said, loud enough for a few heads to turn. "Dramatic, don't you think?" Ava met her gaze. She was tired. Not of the drama, but of being silent in its shadow. "You mean honest?" Ava said evenly. Lila smiled sweetly. "He's just emotional. You know how artists get when they're inspired." A few girls snickered. Ava stood up. Every conversation in the room paused. "You know what's actually dramatic?" Ava said loud and clear. "Stealing your best friend's boyfriend, lying about it, and then playing the victim when it doesn't work out the way you wanted." Lila's face froze. "You do this to every girl who gets more attention than you. You flirt, you manipulate, and when it backfires, you call us insecure." A ripple moved through the room. "I'm not bitter. I'm done. Done letting you define what people think of me. Done pretending you're still the girl I called my best friend." Lila's mouth opened, but no words came. Ava didn't wait. She picked up her bag and walked out, calm, head high, the quiet in the room thunderous behind her. Jamie was waiting for her outside the classroom, leaning against the wall, sketchbook in hand. "How'd it go?" he asked. Ava exhaled. Loudly. Jamie smiled and held out a hand. "You okay?" She took it. "I think," she said, "for the first time in a long time. I really am." The seasons shifted slowly. September melted into October, and the trees outside the school blazed gold and rust. Ava walked the halls differently now, shoulders back, chin high, not because she had something to prove, but because she didn't. Lila no longer spoke to her. Occasionally their paths would cross, at a vending machine, during a group project, at a party. But there were no more jabs, no lingering smiles meant to sting. Just silence. And Ava liked it that way. Rumors faded, as they always do. People found new drama to feed on. And Ava, for once, stayed out of it. She and Jamie grew closer, not in some whirlwind, high school movie kind of way, but in the slow, steady way that real things do. He walked her home on rainy days, left tiny sketches in her locker, "Today you're the sun," and kissed her forehead like it was the most important place in the world. But Ava didn't build her new life around him. She joined the school's literary magazine, took weekend art classes, reconnected with her older cousin, who'd always said she was too smart to play small. She started writing again, really writing. Stories that didn't need villains or perfect endings. Just truth. She still thought about Lila sometimes, not with anger anymore, but with a kind of distant, bittersweet ache. Like remembering a house you once lived in, but wouldn't go back to. Their friendship had been real. It had also been poisoned. Both could be true. One afternoon in late November, Ava sat alone under the old tree behind the art wing, sketchpad open, headphones in. Leaves crunched underfoot as Jamie approached, handing her a steaming paper cup. "Apple cider," he said. "You look like a cider kind of mood." She smiled, taking it. "Thanks." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching clouds drift across a pale sky. "Do you miss her?" Jamie asked quietly. Ava was quiet for a beat. "I miss the idea of her," she said finally. "The version of her I thought was real. But that girl doesn't exist. Maybe never did." Jamie nodded. Ava turned a page in her sketchbook and began to draw. A girl standing tall, alone but peaceful. Her hair caught in the wind. Eyes clear. She didn't need to be rescued. She had rescued herself.